Good morning, it's Norma Cowie, and it's Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock, and I'm here with Norma Talks. And today I'm going to talk about what I've been discovering about the subconscious mind. Now, when I first began to explore things about the subconscious mind, I have to think back a lot of years. And basically, it was through past life regression. I began to realize that we had different lifetimes and different periods, and that we made different decisions and things like that went on. And from there, over the years, I grew into creating a process where we spoke with our inner children and cleared programming around that. That led to, remember, this happens over years of time, that led to the transformation work I've been doing for the last, 10 years maybe. And I became very clear that as we were clearing, like when people signed up for me, I usually had, I'd like them to sign up for 3 sessions because one was never enough. I knew that. But what happened first was kind of what I would call very, very much basics. Then we would be looking at the chakra system, the male-female system, what I call cells, which just has a lot of little bits and pieces to do with it, like etheric, aura, emotion, mental, balancing, intellect, creative. And what we'd be doing is clearing a lot of we're going to call it debris from that period of time, or what was going on there, whatever it was they wanted to clear, whether it was anxiety, whether it was whatever it was they wanted to do. And so for years I've worked with that. Now, the interesting thing I found is that often by the time we got to the second to third session, very often we were going deeper. We were going deeper because we were looking at contracts, oaths, vows, akashic. Very, very few people that I did would go directly to that. They used to have to clear out some debris first. Then we could get to what I call the real main work, because those were the things that we had put into the subconscious. This is where we had made decisions. Now, I was working when it showed me there was a decision, I was looking at one. Okay, we've got a decision here that affects, let's say, anxiety, because lately with all the COVID things that went on, I was dealing a lot with anxiety and byproducts of that. And so I began to find that, I was really excited, to be honest. I was very, very excited when we got down to what I call the energy parts, these contracts, oaths, vows, akashic, others' energies, and all sorts of other things that are down there. But I only recently, based on my own health crises, began to ask a different question. And I spoke about this once before, but I said, okay, how many decisions have I made about this? And it was to do with the Akashic records, and I had 3 of them. I went, oh, okay, 3. Well, the next thing I know, I'm dealing with some clients who have done a lot of work, a lot of energy down in what I call the real deep subconscious stuff. And I just said, I'm working on this new process. How would you like to see what we can find? So let's go first of all and just talk about what we have. We have our soul. Our soul I usually look at anyway when we first come to this planet. How did we get here? What was the main emotion we brought? Or what was the feeling we brought? Because this is, as far as I'm concerned, an emotional planet. And we're here to learn about and deal with our feelings. And so that's one thing with the soul. Other lives, I already knew that very often we repeated sort of same old questions that was from way back in the past life stuff. But then when we get to things like contracts, like what are contracts? Contracts are really usually we make with ourselves. or another person. But when it comes to your own personal contracts, it's like, what have you made with yourself? What are these contracts? They can be often I've seen things like where you didn't measure up, you didn't keep your word, you um, felt guilty over certain things that you said you'd do but didn't, often that kind of thing. So that's all down there in the subconscious. Oaths, what I found a lot is oaths mostly come from your male lives. Soldiers, oath of allegiance. You will not believe how many oaths of allegiance, and that's where a person often will give their power away to someone else. It doesn't mean because the oaths were done with male lives that you're a male in this life. Females and males, it doesn't matter. You've made the oath. And often when we have trouble holding our power, it's because we've made oaths where we've given our power away. And so, if somebody's an authority, we're kind of like, yes, sir, no, sir, that kind of thing. So they're very, very important. Then there's vows. Vows we're all familiar with the wedding ceremony and thing and making the vows. And in fact, I do a wedding this Saturday I'm looking forward to. So where they're going to be saying their own vows. And I'm doing everything else. But the vows are usually in our female lives. Often when we go into the church. See, women, for centuries, if you became pregnant and you were not married, you would be put into an abbey. Often there to stay forever, not to come out. Sometimes you escaped or got out, but mostly no. So you were there for a long time, and if you're familiar at all with the church, you make vows. You make vows when you first go in. You make vows as you move along in the process. So these are vows are like covenants of what you vow to be. Well, they can be. I know I run across male healers who've made vows. They use not just so much oaths, but also vows. And I've always liked those wandering healers that the church had in the Middle Ages. They always were very kind, and most of them, anyway, I never ran across one that wasn't. And so, but the vows kind of have I want to say insidious sense. It's very much like we make a vow and we really sort of remake it. And that's where the subconscious, I thought I was over that. I thought I didn't think that way anymore. I didn't think I could do that. Taken by surprise, you'll fall back into the old pattern, guaranteed. And it'll be based on one of these contracts, those vows that you've done way back when. And you just keep doing the same old thing, especially if you're not in conscious control. If you're in conscious control, you've got a little bit more command over your responses, but mostly not as easy or as much as we would like. And then, of course, there is the biggie, the Akashic Record. The Akashic Record is a book where your major decisions are kept. And some people have really big books and some have smaller books because they've been working through them. So when I first began to take a look at that and realize that, what's on my forms that I've been working with is one thing at a time is more. So then I began to ask questions. Especially, I don't start off with people. I like people who have done some work. You have to do some work to get to that stage, to be open to that. So, like, for instance, this is one that I'm going to be working with. Soul. I think I didn't notice clear in my writing here, but I've got one. It's just one decision. And that could be just to be here. I don't know. I haven't looked at it underneath. I just got how many. Other lives are involved in this, 26 of them. So that means, and always I say, is that a similar or is it a different? And it says the same decision. So 26 lives have had the same decision made about what's going to go on in that life, or how you're going to respond, or what you're going to do or say in that life. Then we go to contracts. Now remember, contracts usually what you make with yourself, or you can make because shipping and things like that were really big in one period time of England's history. or France or Spain, that you made a deal, made a contract, your ship went down, your contract wasn't fulfilled. So there's guilt all around that, and often some other things. In this particular case, I'm going to be looking at is contracts is 21 the same and 3 the same. So there's 2 lots of contracts I have to look at. How do we do that? We just look at it, find out what it is, and then just enable them all. Earth. This was fairly balanced from what I've run into, but 10 and 12, again, different things. 10 oaths one way, 12 oaths another way. And then vows, there were 11 and 12. And then we got to the Akashic Records as 23. Now, I've got that part figured out. I haven't done the work on that. I haven't had the actual appointment with the person to do the work on that yet. But it's like really getting deep into the subconscious. Now, a lot of people think they've already done lots of subconscious work, and I'm sure they have. But it's like if you find yourself repeating a pattern, a way of thinking, a behavior, guaranteed deep down that you have a belief system. Now, what I wanted to also share, because, if you just talk away here, is that the people that I have done this for so far have literally phoned me back to tell me how happy they are or how good they feel and how they just can't believe how everything changed overnight. So I knew I was onto something when that happened, because I have clients phoning back to make an appointment, but very often they don't phone back to say how great they feel and they've changed, their lives have changed and everything has changed. So I know I've got a point here. And the thing is, many of you practice different types of modality. And I'm just suggesting you take a look at those deeper subconscious as to how often and how many and how and is it the same or not? Is it different? Sometimes I know I have 3 lots of numbers. I've run into the numbers of the 40s. And and one of my questions is this all the same? And they'll say no. Well, how many have I got? And I got to figure it out. So they say 22 one and 10 another, and the rest are another one again. So those decisions that are based, and remember, I always work off a heading, like something that we want to change, whether it's a behavior or a feeling of some kind. So we have a master point, you might say, but I really want you to think about this. When you look at your lives, and if you're not satisfied, if something isn't coming together, if it's not exactly the way you wanted, then it's like, take a look at these deeper subconscious levels and see what you have decided. Now, of course, then you got to transform that. You just don't say, oh yeah, I made that decision. Oh no. Because it's sometimes people, when I'm working through, like, do you ever had this thought? And they'll go, yeah, I do. I do have that thought. I said, okay, so now we can clear that thought. And of course, remember, when we're dealing with energy, we take something away. We've got to replace it with another energy, another awareness, another look. And it's really absolutely intriguing for me, because it's like, sometimes I'm showing things, I get things, and it's like, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to handle this? What am I going to do with this? Just ask the question. So do you think like that? Some of these things that people have, and I don't have any of those in front of me that I've done, but it's like I get these pictures or a feeling or words or whatever, and I'll just say, have you feel like that? Do you think like that? Have you done this? And the answer 99.9% of the time is yes. And if it's a no, I know I just haven't worked the right way, but I'll work it until they go, oh yeah, I do that. That is blocking their potential. Now, let's just go one step further. We all know that we have a certain amount of time in this lifetime, whatever the lifetime is, whether it's little, middle, long. eventually you leave this body. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they said to me, I just don't want to be here anymore. And I thought about, okay, well, how am I going to handle this? He doesn't know what I do. He has no idea where I'm from. I said, well, I've done a lot of looking at death and dying through reincarnation. And the one thing I have found is that when you look back over your life, you don't have any regret. You don't have any guilt. Those are the two things you need to clear. And he kind of didn't say much, was moseyed on. Just kept repeating that he was really tired and didn't want to be here anymore. And that's the key, is that you want to be able to make a transition into what we call the light, and we want to call the peace, or whatever else you want to call it. But you're needing to make sure that a lot of these things that I look at in these contracts, those vows, and whatever down there, the Akashic record, we want those as clear as possible. Because if you've got, it's like lines, like tags holding you down, you may have a sense of where you want to go to and how you want to be, but those lines are going to pull you down. They're going to recreate for you, whether you like it or not. I remember way, way back when I was first beginning to do past life regression work with people, I had this dream. I would be taught in my sleep. I've talked about that before. And I had this dream where there were all these lights. I was like I was out in the sky, and there were all these lights like coming on, twinkle, twinkle, twinkle. I went, what are these lights? Conception points. When there is a conception, a light shines. And at that moment, the possibilities of that life are right there. Over the years, I've had several people come to me who've had terrific lives, just not very nice ones, one thing after the other. And we've done some work, and how come you try? And they say, I didn't look. In other words, they saw a light, just zoomed in, didn't look, didn't see. Now, I know from my regression, I chose my father. I chose didn't know my mother at the time, but I knew my father, and I chose my parents. So whatever came down, sometimes that's my doing, because I knew where I was getting into. But also, I was always taught. I was taught, wake up. My kids would cry, and I'd wake up, and I'd have a school teacher, and sort of right in front of me had a very tall teacher always. And I was sitting in a school desk learning. And that's why a lot of my ideas were not like anybody else's, because I wasn't taught from this realm. I was taught from another realm. And that's why sometimes I have these thoughts that come in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, right, that could work. Or I could do this. The awareness that you are more than what you think you are, that you're a part of a bigger growth factor, and that when you go to go into the next realm, you want to be able to go as high as you possibly can, so you may have an opportunity to leave returning to Earth. See, a lot of people can't get away because they're still all tied up in the emotionality, the anger, their pain, their whatever. And you just know they're going to keep on recreating and recreating. But if you would like to see something else, because the universe is big, and I've seen many planets, there are many things. So I know there's some beautiful spaces that one can go to, and you can go to other places to learn a great deal. But this is an emotional learning. And that's not a lot of emotional planets. In fact, I've only kind of seen one other. And so we're here to be able to handle and deal and cope with our emotionality. And so we're here to understand what that subconscious that everyone talks about really is in there. Now, you can watch your thoughts and you can watch your behaviors, but the key is you got to let it go. You got to transform it totally, and all the little bits and pieces. Makes for a happier life when you do that, no matter what's going on. Sometimes in life, things happen you don't really want to have happen, but you just deal with them because that's part of the journey. Anyway, that's my talk for today, and I hope you enjoy that. I just want to say hello, Marianne. She says, good morning. Karen Lee Ackland, good morning. And Maggie G, good morning. Thank you for making your comments and coming and listening. And I trust you learned. And and I do this work as well, by the way. So it's like that's one of the things that I do. And I am enjoying this whole new experience of how many decisions did we make in these areas concerning one little topic. And so that's life. But anyway, have a great Wednesday. Have a great day. See you Sunday. Yes, I won't be in home on Sunday morning. I will be out of town, but I will still endeavor. I'll take my computer with me to tie up. But my goal is to do a little Sunday thought. And hi, Yvonne. Thank you. She says, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to write. And see you Sunday from somewhere. Bye now.